Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. It's episode 261. My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is Summer Rain.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest returning to the episode. We got the wonderful DCD Dan Murphy joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me back, you guys.
Yes.
That's right, Dan. You are here for this episode on golf versus video game golf. We're going to talk about the ethics of IRL golf versus video game golf. We're going to talk about which one's more fun, which one's better for the earth, which one is better for you as an individual, and all that kind of fun, silly, but serious, maybe, stuff too. We'll see how it goes. But before that, we're going to talk about the video game news. There was a Sony State of Play. Summer Game Fest is officially starting in its weird mess of a thing. Release dates, some release flops, some sales numbers, some Lego Nintendo news, and more. But before we get into anything else, how are we doing? How's everybody this week?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I have officially moved. I am in the new place. This is my new office. As you can see, I've only just moved in. I'm definitely living out of boxes right now for the most part, in the process of unpacking. And I feel like this room is much echoier than the last room. So forgive me, listener, if I sound like an echoey man this episode. Hopefully that'll be fixed a little bit by next episode. But yeah, it's all right. I didn't have a ton of time to game this week, just been a lot of working. I'm playing IRL Tetris. Let's go with that. That's basically what I'm doing. Oh, and shout out to my dad who came down and helped me move a little bit. We went and saw Furiosa together in D-Box. So that was my third time seeing the movie and the first time seeing it with a rumble pack under my butt, which was awesome and feels like the way that movie is meant to be watched. So I really recommend that. What about y'all?
Summer is officially here. The season. I mean, summer is also officially here. The person. But
we should start every episode that Summer is on with "Summer is officially here."
Yes. I'm just here to make talking more difficult. That's my whole purpose.
That is to say that my son is out of school. And so it's always an awkward season of negotiating how to juggle work and other life things. And I can't complain too much, really enjoying working for the plant nursery a little bit. I've had a lot of fun. We've gone swimming and played lots of Minecraft and played D&D. I just haven't been able to get much work done yet, but he'll be in camps every once in a while, and we're still kind of negotiating how to do all this.
Just get him his own apartment.
It's always a trick. Well, what about y'all?
Just exploring more things that are in my area. I went to a needlepoint night at my library, way to meet people. Just continuing, because I was, working on the embroidery on my Cass skirt, doing another Silent Princess on that. And then I went to another, just an outdoor neighborhood meetup that is I just walk everywhere. It's so nice. I'm just walking to things that are happening in my neighborhood. It was cicada themed because, I heard the 100 decibel level today of the cicadas walking around. I'm into it. I think I'm geeking out over the cicadas. There's a cicada fest next weekend, but I'm probably going to go to that as well.
It just feels like you're living in an anime when there are cicadas all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes. But right now, these ones are like the 17-year and the 13-year broods, right? That have both specifically here in
that
this
happened
area.
over here 2 years ago too. It was nuts.
Yeah, it's really intense. Have yet to try the cicada infused Malort shot at this local brewery, but we're gonna make our way over there at some point. I'll report when we do.
You do you.
And I went.
Let us know how it goes.
Yes, we'll do. And just one other thing. Went to a squeeze box session. They call it squeeze sessions at the because there's an accordion shop here because I live in Chicago. So that was fun. Hanging out with a bunch of other people that play accordion. We're all just kind of talking shop and how long everybody's been playing, but also getting to see the prodigies just go nuts. Really, really cool.
What about you, DCD? How you doing?
Good. I had a laid back weekend. I had some family in town that I haven't really seen since my wedding, actually. So we had like a nice cookout, hung out for the weekend, even had a friend in town I hadn't seen for like 4 or 5 years and since pre-COVID. So he came by too. So it was like, it was a lot of fun catching up to do. So had a good time, but nothing else other than that.
Last week, we did an episode on Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door remake. Over on our Discord, we got some comments about that. Not so much about the 1,000-Year Door, but David also mentioned he's playing Forsaken, and AV said played more of that than probably it deserved and is in 64 days. Real Tomato said no one's talking about Monolith Fiji's Australian accent. Great job. Well, you're talking about it, Real Tomato. Good job.
Thank you very much to my eye.
Steve Irwin said, I feel like if you guys ever don't say Super Switch on an episode, it's because it's confirmed the name and it's because of Nintendo ninjas sitting in, listening. Now that we know Nintendo listens.
Oh, they've been listening. That's where they got the idea for the Super Switch.
Yeah, not definitely not the Super NES.
No, it's from our show.
Cool Uncle Vince had a couple comments. One was that the really good thing about Atari buying Intellivision is that Atari owned Digital Eclipse. Will probably make an Atari 50 style thing, like docu. What do we call it? This is like a new genre of thing, docu game.
Yeah, I don't like it's like a history book kind of game. Anyway, I am very excited for that if that is ever going to be a thing. I love those kinds of games.
And also, when we talked about the 1,000-Year Door maybe being held for a Super Switch launch, but that not panning out timeline, Cool Uncle Vince also mentioned that EA FC 24, basically the EA soccer game, now that they don't have FIFA, has parity on Switch, which all the FIFA games didn't previously. So maybe they were aiming for a Super Switch launch with that. So maybe more fuel for that fire. If you too want to be shouted out and you have some sort of comment on anything we talk about on this episode, hop over to the Discord, make a post there, or make a comment on the YouTube, or send us a message, or post on social media somewhere. We'll try to shout you out. We've also got a Patreon. We really appreciate all our patrons over on Patreon supporting the show. You can go check that out. And also, we do this as a podcast, but there's also a video version on YouTube, and you should check that out for sure if you haven't already, so you can see our faces and hit like and subscribe when you're there.
You can watch the evolution of both me and Summer's backgrounds in real time, week to week, as we finish moving into our new homes.
Will something come out of this door at some point? Probably.
Will a new small door appear in my background due to some dark magic? Almost certainly.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk about the gaming news and rumors. First up, we're starting off with the Sony State of Play. So Sony gave a State of Play on May 30th, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know. Mixed reactions to this one. I honestly didn't watch it. A lot of the stuff they show off isn't for me. So there is one thing that I thought was really cool that I think a lot of people thought was cool. We'll get into that. The sort of big 3 takeaways I thought were that everybody is excited about this new Astrobot game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
3D platformer, lots of PlayStation references. Looks fun, right? Like what in my opinion,
looks like
video games should
Nintendo.
be. Yeah.
It looks like a Nintendo 3D platformer. And to be honest, not a lot of people outside of Nintendo are making 3D platformers except for indies, right? So It's cool to see a first-party Sony studio actually making a new 3D platformer, and it looks fantastic. This closed out the State of Play, and I think it's definitely a much-needed game to be releasing this year. It's kind of got the release window all to itself, at least as far as Sony releases are concerned this year. So hopefully a lot of people turn out and buy this thing.
Have any of you guys played Astro's Playroom?
Just like briefly at a friend's place.
Yeah.
I don't have a PS5 myself.
So basically it's like a tech demo for the PlayStation 5, like the new controller, right? And it ended up just actually being like a really, really fun game. So if they even just branch off a little bit from what Astro's Playroom was, this game's going to be an absolute banger. It was because like Astro's Playroom is like one of the best PlayStation games there is.
Yeah, they said it's really similar, but it's like 4 times as long, I think is what they said, and has like 80 levels or something like that. So
yeah,
sounds pretty promising.
It was super creative too, like what you could do with the controller and stuff.
Yeah, the reaction to this has been very positive. and from what I've seen, like the YouTube comments are like, this best thing in the state of play. A lot of Sony fans are excited. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's almost like everybody should just be making Nintendo games.
Wow. Yeah.
It seems to be what the people want. Yeah.
Of note as well, I thought that God of War Ragnarok is dated now for PC release in September. As we continue to see Sony release games on PC, and an interesting clip here with several releases this year on PC.
Yeah, I know this is going to be another PSN required release. So that means that it's not going to be available in certain countries. And then also on the PC front, they also announced that PSVR 2 is finally being supported for PC. They're releasing an adapter that you can use your PSVR 2 on PC with. So it's just more proof that Sony's trying to jump into the PC market.
Yeah, but holding on to their PlayStation Network.
Yeah,
right?
I just feel like we've talked about it before, but I really think that this is them getting into the PC market, and then eventually they're going to be launching their own launcher to compete with Steam and moving all their games over to that.
And then the other big talking point here is Concord, which took up apparently a big chunk of the state of play. It is a sort of a hero shooter game that's coming out, a live service game that's scheduled for later this year. If I'm August, was it? I believe. I don't have that actually right in front of me, but the reaction to this has been not so positive across the internet. As far as these games go, I don't play them, so I don't know, but it sounds like this is kind of samey to Overwatch, and so it doesn't seem to offer a lot. Looks like it's very Guardians of the Galaxy coded, but not like again, just kind of like, it looks like it's sort of a, people are tired of live service games. There's enough of them. They're playing the ones they want to, that sort of thing, maybe too. And if it's not innovative or interesting enough, it's not gonna, I don't know. I don't think this is the reaction Sony was hoping for. We'll put it that way.
I mean,
what do y'all think?
This point was brought up. I heard someone else talking about this online, so forgive me if I'm stealing a talking point. But, Firewalk Studios was founded in 2018, and this is their first game, which means they've been working on this game for like 6 years. At the time that this game was probably starting development, these kinds of games were really popular. And now we're at this point in 2024 where the game finally is ready to be released and everybody's over this shit, So it's like a little worrying. Again, this is just kind of the state of the industry. It's like these AAA games take forever to make, and it takes an entire studio, and we'll see what happens when this game comes out. Maybe it's going to be a huge smash hit like Helldivers, but the reaction right now is tepid, to say the least. And I hope this can find its audience. I think it is going day and date to PC when it comes out, so that'll help. But we'll have to see when this thing comes out. I couldn't give two fucks about it personally.
Right. Like, as soon as you use the word Overwatch, my brain was just like, what could they possibly do differently? And I would love that, but I already have that with Splatoon. So like, I don't need anything else.
Yeah. And in the state of play too, like it was like a 15-minute block, right? And they didn't like show the gameplay till probably minute 13. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Like the characters are kind of cool. And like, and then it was just that type of game. And I was like, next.
Yeah. The era of all these big game showcases is about to be upon us. And is probably already upon us, but the Summer Game Fest official kickoff is this week, and in a sort of Q&A just this past week, Jeff Keighley is tempering expectations with some comments about it, mostly being already announced games and specifically naming a handful of games that won't be at Summer Game Fest. So managing expectations, I think, is the phrase there. So I don't know how folks feel about that, but that's going to be, we'll have a lot more to say about all of these announcements as they roll out and that sort of thing. But there you go, it's coming soon. I don't know if anybody has anything to say.
It's weird, we're going into the E3 season, which normally would be so hype. And I just feel nothing. Like, am I alone in this? I think it's kind of weird because we were told that a Nintendo Direct is coming like a month ago or maybe 2 months ago now. So it's like usually everybody's buzzing with like, when are we going to get a Nintendo Direct? Well, now we actually know one's coming.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and so everything else I just don't really care about at the moment. I don't know. Like I'd love to next week, I'm sure we'll hear a lot of great news, but the hype is not really there for me. And Jeff Keighley being like, don't expect too much is not helping either, you know.
I think we're coming to almost a year now of just constant industry layoffs and just disappointments from within the industry. So yeah, of course we shouldn't expect much because tons of people are losing their jobs. The creatives who actually make these games, what could they possibly have to announce in this upcoming week?
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about it. And it's hard to be excited knowing that too, right? Like you want to get us excited about what? All of these people who don't have work and or did put in work and these are the games you're announcing and like who made these games? That's kind of how I'm feeling. As soon as that came out, I was like, of course we can't expect anything.
Yeah. And, seeing like a schedule that drags on for a month isn't exciting either. If they could only put it together in like one weekend and call it E3 or something, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Call it E4.
Like
that's it. That one's free, guys. I mean, that's the sequel to E3. It just writes its fucking self. Come on.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, we'll move on to another announcement of note here to us in particular, and David in particular, in that the Riven remake has gotten a release date very soon, this month, right? June 25th. Not coming to Switch, right, David? But
no, not now. In fact, it's not announced as coming to any consoles. The only console, if you want to call it that it's confirmed coming to is the Meta Quest. Right. It is coming to VR. So that's exciting for people. I mean, I feel like this is a game that's perfect for VR. I'm really excited about this. I mean, obviously, we had the folks from Cyan on the show not too long ago talking about the development for this game. So it's really exciting to see this getting a release date. And honestly, I was expecting this somewhere around like October or later in the year. I was certainly not expecting it this summer, and I certainly wasn't expecting it in like 3 weeks. So I'm very fucking excited about this. If you're not familiar with Riven, it is the sequel to Myst. It has been a long time coming that, there was a fan remake of the, it was like a slideshow, right? It was pre-rendered stills that you would click through, the original game from the 1990s. And there was a fan remake that was in development for a long time. And then that got canned, but that's because the original studio picked up the project and is doing now like a real-time remake of the game. So I'm very, very, very fucking excited. I've already reached out to some of the people from Cyan and just typed a bunch of fanboy stuff that I probably should keep to myself. But I needed to let them know how excited I am. And this comes out the same weekend as Super Monkey Ball, the new Super Monkey Ball game. So it's like Christmas in June, but only for David.
So you don't need Summer Game Fest. This is your Summer Game Fest right here.
Truly, like I don't need any more announcements. I mean, I'd like to see whatever Nintendo's cooking, but we know that's coming. So
yeah, separate.
A new handheld Game Boy is being developed and has been announced by Palmer Luckey, who, speaking of the Meta Quest, formerly Oculus, was one of the creators of that and has sort of a controversial history of things,
Palmer
which I
Luckey?
didn't really know about till I was reading about this.
Oh yeah, he kind of sucks as a person. Yeah, he was like fired from Facebook for his like political views, But yeah, he's now just recently announced this new. It's called, what is it? The Mod Retro Chromatic, which is it's an FPGA Game Boy console, very similar to Analog Pocket or the PGB, I think they call it. I'm not sure exactly what that new mod kit you can make is. This one, it looks really cool. It's got a magnesium alloy case and like the screen. He went into super big detail about how they tried to get the color balance exactly the same. It just sounds like I think Palmer Luckey, before he founded Oculus, modded Game Boys, and he's now kind of getting back to some of his roots. And it's kind of interesting and fun to see him nerd out despite his political views. I'm kind of putting that to the side while I'm looking at this, but it'll just be interesting. It's kind of just announced today, and it seems kind of weird. It's $200. I think a lot of people are like, is this a scam? There's a lot of like weird stuff with the shipping where they're like, there's no refunds, and they say if it's damaged in transit, it's entirely on you and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people who review these things are ordering them so we don't have to make the plunge first. So I definitely say hold off on this, but it does look pretty cool. And there's some new cartridges coming out for it. You know, it'll play Game Boy cartridges, and it also has new games coming out that use the cartridge format, including a new licensed version of Tetris. So that got my eye.
Next up, we're going to talk about Pac-Man, the Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs game released.
You did it.
I think it came out roughly a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. You know, it was originally a Stadia game, but got shut down when Stadia shut down, and then they rebooted it. But apparently it has not been doing well, according to some data that has been scraped from Steam. The game, I guess, has 64, it's a 64 player battle royale type game, but apparently at no point since the game has released have 64 people been playing it concurrently on Steam. Now it does have crossplay. That might not mean that they didn't have 64 players, but it's not a good sign.
Okay, that is good. I actually didn't know that it had crossplay. So maybe there were 64 players at one time. This is sad. This is what basically, Pac-Man 99 was killed for, for this game. And it's just a shame to see that it has not found its player base. And I don't know, the game looks fun. Have any of you guys played this?
No. And I was under the impression that Pac-Man 99 fizzled out, and that was why it got cut, not because they were making
could be
this.
both.
I was too. I loved Pac-Man 99.
I mean, I did it until it did it. I don't know.
Yeah, until you couldn't get a full room, but
yeah.
Well, maybe that's probably just why this game never took off, is the interest in a battle royale version of Pac-Man has fizzled out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you have to pay $20 for instead of is free.
Yeah, that's a bummer, I guess. Maybe we'll see them. The third time's the charm.
Yeah, Pac-Man 99 Tunnel Chompy Champy Bits with ghosts this time will come out and save the whole thing.
We also got a release date, right? For the Tomb Raider show, the anime, the cartoon, David. Congratulations. It's so cool to see the teaser, right? Like for this.
Yeah, I wasn't actually even aware that they were going to be dropping any kind of teaser, so it was a surprise to me. But the show got a release date for October 10th. It's coming out on Netflix. This is a show that I've been working on with some friends of the show. I think a couple people that have been on the podcast have been actively working on this. Steven Swirsky, who was on our achievements episode, is the lead compositor on the show. And boy, howdy, gang. Let me tell you, this show looks incredible. Steven Swirsky is a wizard when it comes to compositing. So on our end, I'm really proud of the show. We've been working on it for about 2 years, been kind of the supervising editor on this thing, and I'm super pumped for it to come out. And the response has been pretty good. Usually when we drop trailers for our shows, there's like a bunch of like toxicity and negativity and people just asking for Stranger Things to come back to Dead by Daylight in the comments. Nobody's talking about the thing, but people actually seem pretty excited about this. So I'm pumped. Haley Atwell is playing Laura, and she is perfect casting for this part. So I'm really excited for you guys to check it out.
Very cool. We all look forward to that.
Awesome.
A little bit of Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door sales news. We don't have like a lot of info here, but apparently, according to a couple of the sources, like in Japan and in the UK, the game has been selling pretty well for a launch week. I think similar to or higher than Origami King in those regions. So I think, there's been all this talk about the direction of Paper Mario and which direction it's going to take, and Nintendo listens to sales, I think, but they also listen to their players, right? Apparently they've been sending out surveys about this, asking I think I filled one out actually, just because I got it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Asking about like original characters and stuff like that is interesting
wow.
wording.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they want to gauge whether or not people prefer this style of Paper Mario versus the direction that Paper Mario has been going in recently. And from what I hear from people that are big Paper Mario fans is that they want more shit like this. So hopefully that means that they are indeed kind of trying to pivot in that direction, or at least gauge interest.
A new Lego Nintendo set just got announced. Our first official The Legend of Zelda Lego set. One of those giant $300 Lego sets that everybody can afford is been announced. It's a Deku Tree that you can to either have it in like Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild style. So it's 2 builds in one. I think I saw somebody say that was clever, so that people that want to display both now have to buy 2.
Fuck. Didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah. It's one of those big ones and it costs a lot. So I don't know. Yeah. But it looks cool. I love the little minifigure Link and Zelda. I don't know what else to say about this.
I want it. That's what I have to say about it.
Do you think we can convince Lego that we're big enough Nintendo influencers for them to send us free copies?
I don't know, but we could try.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
What's
so
the worst
too.
that happens? They say no.
Yeah.
We'll be like, hey, you guys know we named the Super Switch.
You know, there's been an increase in Lego Nintendo crossovers, so maybe this means there will be more Zelda Lego sets or other properties, Metroid or something. I don't know. We'll see. I think that the door is pretty open on all this. It seems like they're both happy with this relationship. So
I think a Lego Nintendo video game would be pretty cool too.
Ooh.
interesting idea. Yeah.
Super Smash Lego, or something like that. You know, not like a fighting game, but like the Mario Lego.
Just get all the
you know.
characters in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once they make the sets, yeah. So next up, we got some rumors here. I actually don't know a lot about this. I know we talked a little bit about a leak or rumor last week about a new Mario game that's in development, but it sounds like the same leaker, right? That was talking about that, if I'm not mistaken. Midori
Yep.
is also talking about code names for Zelda, right?
This is kind of a follow-up from when we had Papagenos on. He actually put out a video since he was on, kind of talking a little bit about some of what he thought that Zelda game was going to be that was kind of hinted at before. And that is internally what people are thinking is what Nintendo is referring to as Project Edward. I think that they have used similar names like that for Zelda projects in the past. Papagenos in his video that he put out just this past week talked about how it would be a Link's Awakening style top-down Zelda game where you play as Zelda, which is super exciting. I mean, that's not confirmed or anything. That's speculation on his part, but that's exciting to hear. So a lot of people are thinking that that's what Project Edward is. And then there's also a project that is being tossed around in Nintendo documentation called Project Anna. And people assume that that is a Nintendo Switch Sports style game because internally Switch Sports was referred to as Project Elsa before that game came out. So Anna and Elsa are both characters from Frozen. And so people are assuming that this means that there is now another Switch Sports game coming, or at least some kind of Switch Sports content on the way that is being currently developed. So that's the newest rumor mill talk. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, because people have weird names for shit when it's not supposed to be seen by anybody. So if they're making Frozen references at Nintendo of Japan, that would be hilarious. But if this turns out to be true, then that's all but confirmed.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that one home.
Yeah,
landing the plane.
You got
it. There has been a big account about Google leaks and Google privacy data breaches and all kinds of stuff from a group called 404 Media. And that is its own thing that we could talk about, but it's not exactly related to video games. However, out of that is some information that between 2013 and 2018, there were some Nintendo leaks coming from a Google employee who had been accessing Nintendo's private YouTube videos. So any leaks we got in that time frame might have been from this Google employee who was internally watching things they weren't supposed to watch, I guess, or maybe working on, I don't know, whatever, the back end or whatever, and took a little sneak peek. Interesting to know this, right? But I think also a lot of people have accused Pioro, who's been a very notable leaker in the last, year or so? I don't know exactly how long, but it hasn't been that long, of watching or having access to YouTube videos of Nintendo because of the timing of their leaks often being right before videos release. But I don't think this is Pioro for lots of reasons. Number one, the time frame doesn't line up, and Pioro also kind of fired back saying that they have they have had other leaks that weren't related to videos on YouTube and stuff like that.
They were like, how would I have known about the price of Nintendo World Championships, or how would I have known about something with 1-2 Switch as well that was kind of related, so that was interesting. But this is gross. This is gross news, right?
Yeah, the whole thing is when you start looking at just the Google privacy stuff.
As someone with a couple Google homes in his house, that's not like that I've got anything to hide, but it's obviously privacy concerns in the age of the internet is a huge thing, right? And knowing with confidence that this is how we got a lot of these Nintendo leaks is super sus and spooky and gross, right? A lot of the stuff that was going around was saying that these were leaked accidentally. I was like, that doesn't sound very accidental to me, dog. Sounds like you were taking advantage of your position at Google of being able to see a lot of this stuff, which is just real nasty stuff to see. But I don't know what you guys think about this other than that.
Yeah, I think it's like, I honestly don't want to dig through this report because it's just kind of scary. And like, I'm not surprised, like, you have that much data, stuff's going to happen. Like, but also like the fact that internally, they're just calling it an accident and stuff like that. He leaked it accidentally, or she, or whoever. But like, I think Google has responded that all these things were dealt with, or you know what I mean? Like,
we did an internal investigation and decided internally that we've internally handled it.
Right, exactly.
We unleaked all the Nintendo data that we leaked before, so don't worry, it's all sealed up, real nice and tight.
We'll move on to something a little lighter to finish out the news, which is that the Play Nintendo Tour in the United States is on again. This is where they go to malls across the country, and you can go and they have sort of big booth type setups and try out the games and that sort of thing. If you're a crazy big Nintendo fan, like a lot of us, I honestly, and you have a kid, I honestly recommend it. They came to Austin last year and I went, and I think I talked about it last year, and my son and I had a lot of fun, even though like we own all of the games already. I think there was maybe like one we didn't own, or maybe even not. But we still messed around, played them. There were some activities, like you could like get some swag. They randomly gave my son a backpack because they try to kind of sell you on Switches. You go through this process, and then they're at a booth and there's like a Switch Lite and a Switch OLED and a Switch. And I'm like, yeah, we got all those. And they're like, here, have a backpack.
So you can hold all your Switches.
But it was fun. And yeah, I think of note, Houston, I know we have some listeners in Houston, Minneapolis, there's a bunch of other cities. You can look it up, but yeah.
You guys got to go to these things and harass the Nintendo associates
Roadies.
About when the next system is coming, and try to get as much
know.
information out of them as you can. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the most important thing you can do here. Obviously, that is a lie. Do not go do that.
Don't do it, but also having been to this thing, they know less than most of our listeners do. Like
Certainly less than us.
Yeah.
Because like there was a booth for Pikmin 4 and we were there and they're like, oh, it's like, oh, we've already beat Pikmin 4. And they're like, oh, didn't that just come out like a month ago? I'm like, yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think we should take this opportunity to announce the Super Switch Headz play tour, which will be going around to strip malls across the Austin area. So bring your kids and don't harass us, but we'll give you a backpack.
All right.
Yes.
Well,
It's just one I bought off Amazon for myself.
I think that's going to do it then for our news and rumors segment. We are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking all about the ethics of golf versus video game golf. We are back, and this week we are talking about the ethics of IRL golf versus video game golf. And we've got DCD Dan here to talk with us as a fan of both real golf and video game golf. Dan, is that fair to say?
Yeah, of course.
A fan of real golf, boo, and video game golf, yay.
We're going to break that down. That's not the official Switch Headz position. That might be Patrick's
It
position.
might be by the end of the episode.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
We'll see.
I don't know that this is like a debate episode.
Sure it is.
But it's more an even discussion about the pros and cons of both in terms of enjoyment factor and environmental impacts. Am I getting the right angle on this?
I think so. I think that golf, and feel free to interrupt, join in, contradict. Golf is perceived as being a luxury, elitist, very environmentally taxing sport in that, requires a lot of water, especially in certain places where there are, certain golf courses. And you might think, well, it's natural. A lot of golf courses, though, import, different types of grasses and criticize for its land use and water use, I guess we could say, on top of being sort of an elitist thing. If we're being honest, video games also have a very large environmental impact. It's just not, it's more of the people, maybe, I guess, or you could say, or perceived that way.
Right. You're saying that video games rot the minds of children, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Or are you talking about the electricity involved in?
Oh yes. Or the mining to make all of the components. I mean, honestly, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it.
Well, how much of that e-waste is golf games, though, right? If we're talking about golf exclusively,
the vast majority.
We
all know about that landfill right next to the ET landfill where it's all PGA Golf 2K13s. We all
what
know.
happened
No,
in 2013?
I was making that up.
But in addition to the environmental factors, I think we can talk about enjoyability and what. And that's perception too. And also, various other factors and kind of spin out. But Dan, as our guest and as our golf enthusiast, I don't know that Summer, David, or I are big golfers, though I do have a history with golf I'd like to discuss at some point. Can you tell us why you like golf or how you got into it and your thoughts on golf versus video game golf?
Yeah, so I actually kind of started pretty recently in COVID era. So I've always I played baseball in college. I played in high level baseball for a while and, even just played flag football, recreationally, but I've always had kind of this competitive spirit in me. I was in a really bad car accident in 2019 where I broke my hip in 5 places. I have a rod in my leg, broken bones in my ribs. Broken ribs, basically everything was broken. With baseball, I tore my rotator cuff 3 or 4 times. So my entire body is pretty much held together by Scotch tape. So, once I'm not able to really play baseball or do like rec league flag football, my wife and I would sit there playing cribbage, and I'm like, yeah, come on, like just getting way too into it. She's like, dude, get a fucking hobby. So I took up golf, and a lot of my friends are playing golf. I didn't really particularly like it. And then I started gambling on golf. So that also got me into it a little more. So golf is a game where you can actually just be very competitive with yourself. Because basically as an amateur golfer, you set up your golf GIN, it's called, which is like your amateur golf number, right? You compete with your own score. You try to get your handicap lower. You get your handicap lower to basically get your tour card. Your tour card gets you to play on TPC courses, which are like, if you're a baseball fan, it's like playing baseball in Fenway, or Wrigley, or, just a professional ballpark. So any amateur can play on this as long as you're good enough to get your tour card. So that's what I've been kind of attempting over the course of the last year. I used to think like it's like an elitist fat white man sport. And it mostly is, but like there is like a younger generation like me that I think because of DraftKings, like really started golfing, and I think because of the pandemic, it pushed people to kind of try something new as well. So like a lot
to go outside and leave your house and all that.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I mean, like I'll have random weekdays off, and I'll just I book like a tea time on a Tuesday at like 10 a.m. for $20 somewhere, right? And I'll like end up matching up with someone like my age or a little bit younger. And they're all just like, oh yeah, I started playing a couple years ago. You know what I mean? It's COVID got me out here. I kept doing it. It's fun. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now. As far as video game golf, Mario Golf was great. Nobody would play it with me except Kyle here and there.
Yeah.
I've played, I have a couple of friends like that live in other states, and we'll catch up by like just playing, PGA Tour on PlayStation and, doing that for a little bit. But that's my history.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's worth pointing out too. I think a big reason why golf is viewed as being so elitist is because of country clubs, right? And like these very exclusive clubs that only certain people can get into if you're at a certain like wealth level, right? Or a certain respectability within your society or whatever you're a part of, right? But I think that there are also, just in defense of IRL golf, to put one out there, there's a great like public course here in Austin around like 38th Street. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. It's really fascinating. It's a really old golf course too. It's actually the oldest golf course west of the Mississippi.
Wow, that's something that I only ever say in jest, west of the Mississippi. But no,
at least that's what I was told as a kid. I did golf camps there.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's cool. It's like you can go there, it's free, it's public, and it's like I've gone there and shot like videos and stuff like that before, where I played like a homeless guy, like in a student film that's somebody that's on a golf course or whatever, right? So it's like, stuff like that, I think is good. Wasn't there a proposition recently on whether or not they turn that into a real park or keep it as a golf course?
Yeah, I think there's been some debate about the space. It's not an 18-hole golf course. I don't know that we want to get into the history of Hancock Golf Course, but I'm like,
it's interesting.
Get into it. It's an old golf course in Austin, like from before 1900. And yeah, I think there has been some debate about whether to keep it or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so I find that kind of interesting. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I have been playing golf games since I was a kid. I think one of the first games that I ever played for the Super Nintendo when I was a kid, my dad had bought, and it was called True Golf Classics Waialae Country Club. I don't know how you pronounce that. It's basically, a country club that's in Hawaii, right? But it was, a pretty basic Super Nintendo golf game. But I played the shit out of that game, and I really enjoyed it. And something that I find interesting about golf video games is that they're all pretty much the same. Like the mechanics of golf games. It's always there's a little bar and there's a little pip that goes across the bar, and you have to get it within a certain point and measure the counterbalance against the wind direction by certain angles in order to get your ball as close to the hole as you can. And there's just something about that formula in video games that is so fucking fun.
And then when you get the backspin and top spin on it,
yeah, you add that element into it, which you get in games like Mario Golf. Maybe we should just say a list of a few of the golf games that I thought of off the top of my head that I really personally enjoy. There's golf for the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was developed by Satoru Iwata. That was one of the very first games that he made. There's Neo Turf Masters, which is an incredible arcade golf game. Mario Golf, Wii Sports Golf is classic. I feel like so many people played that, which actually uses the original courses from NES Golf. What the Golf, PGA Tour, Hot Shots Golf, Golf Story, Curse to Golf. There's so many games, and this is just scratching the surface of golf games. Actually, I was looking up some of that stuff before this, and honestly, a lot of these games put their own little spins on some of the formula, but most of them are really, really similar in that kind of pip moving across a bar sort of gameplay and shooting against the wind sort of gameplay. And so I just find it interesting that formula has stuck around for so long and has been so exciting for people that honestly couldn't give two shits about golf in real life, like myself. I've never played golf. I've done putt, and I've like whacked a ball from time to time, but I've never actually gone out to a course and actually played a game of golf. But I've played most of these games that I just mentioned, and I enjoy them quite a bit. I don't know what y'all's experience is with golf games, or if you feel similarly to me, even not having an interest in the real life sport.
Yeah, I think that's where the impetus for this idea of this show came from a little bit, is that we jokingly loved video game golf, but hate real life golf. Hate might be a strong word. And I think, I want to get more nuanced than that and all that. But just real briefly about myself, my grandfather was a real big golfer. They lived on a golf course, which is also something I kind of want to talk about. You were talking about golf courses and country clubs. I think the current thing I see, I drive around delivering plants, and I already started to notice this, but I've been thinking about it. A lot of new developments, suburban, decently, like upper middle class, whatever you want to call it, developments are built around the idea of come live here and you get access to this golf course, which is an interesting thing. And is a golf course worse than a pool and a tennis court? I don't know. We can talk about it, but but it happens. But anyway, I grew up with my grandfather, who was being a big golfer, and so as a kid, I was encouraged to golf when I was there, and I took a few golf camps. I was not a very sporty person, regardless of any sport. But I just think about my
towards puppetry and video
and computers. And anyway, but I remember my grandfather. He would take us out at night to the golf course where we weren't supposed to be, with these giant long rakes, and we would scrape the water traps, and he would clean the balls and resell them to the golfers. And on an episode about environmentalism in golf, I just love that fact. And that I was that people that lived through the Great Depression, I think, thought differently than we do now, which is also a
back when it wasn't chic to reduce, reuse, recycle. It was a necessity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I also, when you're talking about video game golf, I really like to play video game golf. I think a lot about Golden Tee and the explosion of arcade video game golf that happened around, 2000 to 2010. I feel like that was a big thing for casual people that maybe don't care about golf, but would, swing their hand on the ball thing and
the trackball thing.
Yeah. That was a really big video game golf time. But Summer, what about you? Do you like golf or video game golf?
Yeah, I think I sit somewhere in the middle of all of this, and I'm more entertained by y'all's discussion of it. So golf kind of was in my family a little bit. My great uncle and my great aunt, but he was the one that played golf. They lived across from a park that had a golf course. So there were designated days that you could golf, and then there were designated days that like no golf allowed, you will be arrested. It is for families to use the park in other ways.
Oh yeah.
So that was like my understanding at first before I learned about what country clubs were and how they are steeped in classism, racism, all of that. And then I, grew up and had that kind of understanding of it and was like, oh, well, they weren't going to a country club. They were literally just golfing because it was across the street. And also my great uncle was also doing the scraping of the balls. Haha. And
sorry, I can't separate the scraping of the balls from the running of the bulls right now. And I just find that very humorous.
Yeah. So the next generation in my family, some of the men tried to get into golf. It didn't really stick. I think they just kind of did it when my great uncle wanted to, and he passed away. Nobody in my family golfs anymore. As far as the video games go, mostly would play it a little bit like with friends. I definitely played it in Wii Sports because it was there. Not my favorite game in Wii Sports. I played a few different older ones in preparation for this episode. Got really mad with Mario on, what is it, the NES, that one. And but I loved their outfits in that one. Their outfits were fantastic. But then I was like, screw this. I'm just gonna play the new Mario Golf, which like I liked at first. And then I do some of the other courses and I'm like, this sucks. That's funny now because now it's like the only thing that's been played in my house like for the past weekend. So DCD, if you want someone to play Mario Golf with, we're doing it again in my household.
Nice.
So that and I'll do it as a social thing, certainly. There are other social games I'd rather play, but if it's what you want to play, I'll play it with you. That's kind of where I sit on it. And I probably feel the same way about real golf, I guess, right? I don't know. Everything that you said, DCD, about like, it rang for me that like it is low impact in getting people outside, right? So I would love to have the conversation that we're probably about to have about, I'm sure there are efforts to make it more environmentally, like I was saying, like that was my initial understanding of golf before I learned about what it actually was. So I'm eager.
I guess the other thing I should say is that I'm overly obsessed with climate change, and that like I don't talk about it a lot on this show, but I am a very alarmed, concerned citizen about climate change. And I think this discussion is centered around that for me at least. I want to be like real clear that I don't hate golf, that I think golf gets a lot of attention from climate activists. Just to put it out there, like there's been a lot of direct action on golf courses of like clogging holes and dumping things on golf courses and stuff like that to try to bring awareness. Yeah, I mean, to try to bring awareness to climate change, because of the reason that I think golf is a high, a lot of elite people play golf, and so it's things that are targeted, and because it is seen as that, and it does have a reputation for using a lot of land and water and pesticides and things like that, right? But to what Summer just said, does it have to do all those things? No. And are there efforts to make golf greener? Yes. And I think if we're being honest, a lot of modern activities, not just golf, pick your poison, right? Like have negative impacts and use a lot of resources and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you just talking about white collar sports, right? Like which I think you could put golf in the category of white collar sports alongside like tennis, and I would even argue like Formula One. For racing, like that's a good example of this as well, right? Tennis is like you've got little rectangles, like nobody's really getting too hurt by tennis. It's more
accessible too, I think.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. Formula One, however, is like that's a big gas guzzling machines going around all the time, and
people traveling from all over the world. And
exactly. Yeah.
Bringing their yachts and
exactly right. Yeah. I think that's probably a little bit more apt of a comparison. That said, I've played some really great F1 games that I really enjoy. and on top of that, I have, I come from a family that really enjoys racing, so like I've been to the Grand Prix in Austin like a number of times, and fucking enjoy it a lot. I really enjoy Formula One, and I love tennis. But it's like, that's notwithstanding, you can still enjoy things and also understand that they have environmental and socioeconomic impacts on different places.
Right, and that maybe in the future we need to address those things, and especially if we want to keep these things around, is I think the big thing. I'm a big fan of Katherine Hayhoe, who is a climate scientist, and she's a very positive person, but a very realistic person as well. It's not like things aren't roses, but her whole approach is you're not going to convince people by telling them a bunch of scary negative facts. You're going to convince them by talking about the things that they're interested in, and so if somebody's a golfer, we're not going to be like, fuck golf. That's not going to convince anybody. What is going to be like, hey, there are ways that maybe golf could adapt and change, right? To maybe not have golf courses in the middle of the fucking desert. Or if we do, to not try to grow grass that doesn't belong there and that sort of thing. And to have a golf course be an environmental oasis rather than leveling land, right? Like building it around or having native plants and that sort of thing.
So can I ask you a question? What is the good alternative to that for, let's say, someone who does live in New Mexico or in a desert arid environment who enjoys the game of golf? What are some good alternatives rather than introducing an overabundance of the wasting of water and an ecosystem that isn't natural to the environment there?
Well, video game golf. No, but if you like snowboarding, do you expect to snowboard in, I don't know,
Mexico?
Yeah,
just go with it.
Or like a place that
New Mexico actually has amazing snowboarding.
Right.
Yeah,
that's actually, but in the
Santa Fe. Yeah. There's a lot of mountains.
It's
beautiful.
That's I don't know a very flat place in Central America or something. You know
Oklahoma,
what I mean?
there's no snowboarding we're in Texas.
I don't think everything is for. One of the problems in our modern society is that everybody expects everything to be available all the time. And we expect raspberries to be at the grocery store out of season. We expect to be able to drive door to door everywhere. And I think that I'm getting into some big picture stuff here that's away from golf versus non-golf, but
go for it, Patrick.
But that's what but I think that's the kind of stuff that our attitudes about everything kind of have to evolve and change, and to expect to play golf in Nevada. I don't know that, unless it's golf changes a little bit, or a lot.
The perception of golf, I think, is different too. Kind of where I live versus obviously down south, right? My wife is from New Mexico. She, like you, Patrick, is big into climate change, does a lot of it around the DC area. So obviously, when I first started, she was like, what are you doing? So in New Mexico, they have water conservation. They can only have a certain amount of water on golf course, to pretty much water the golf courses, but golf courses are taking advantage of it in Albuquerque and using way more than they should have. And then, people in the neighborhoods weren't getting enough water because of these golf courses. So I agree with you. Scottsdale is one of the golf capitals of the world because they have just golf course on top of golf course on top of golf course in the middle of the desert, and they charge $300 to $900 around 18 holes. Right? That's insane. How much they charge because of the upkeep of it. Because they have to really just take care of this all day. Even as someone who plays a lot, it doesn't make sense to me that they should do that and take away water from regular people. But when you're up here, right, it rains so much and there's so much humidity. I cut my lawn almost twice a week because it gets up to your knees. So up here, water conservation for the golf courses is a big, it's barely a thing. They barely have to water them, unless if it's the dead heat of the summer. But even then, we don't have an issue with water up here. And a lot of the golf courses as well, they've worked with wildlife habitat management and just keeping the wildlife there. So like actually when you go golf, you see like, cool different birds and deer running around and stuff. Like it isn't just you and your buddies out there. Like you see all the animals and stuff. Like it's super cool. So, and that's how it's always been up here. And that's, you do see like such a perception of golf, like from the south to the north and, the coast to coast. So I didn't realize that there was such like this negative stigma about it until like, I've heard from my wife and just seen like people going down to these like deserts to play. They're amazing courses, but why are they there?
At what cost?
At what cost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like why can't TPC Scottsdale, why can't that course be in Maryland? Like it would cost 1/80th to upkeep of it, and you could still build out the same thing with all the land that we have here. It's kind of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think you talked about, wildlife and golf courses. And I think that's like an opportunity of golf courses, right? Like that maybe in the past there was we'll level the land and plant, all these non-native grasses and things. But yeah, that's where golf courses actually have an opportunity to use their land well, right? To be a wildlife refuge. And I think that makes them for a more enjoyable golf experience probably too, right? Like you said, you get to see more interesting things and feel more out in nature as opposed to this manicured nature.
Those are certainly my favorite levels in Golf Story, is when you have to fight against all the birds that are coming to pick up your ball whenever you shoot it out there. So
Golf Story is the best golf game.
It's up there. It is a very good
favorite.
one.
It's
I really liked it. What the Golf is also a lot of fun.
What the Golf is
Anyway, we talked about like the environmental impact of golf. I think one thing that golf might have over video games is you're outside moving around and swinging things. And maybe it's not the most exercise intensive sport. And maybe some people drive around on golf courses.
Yeah.
Might be critical of that.
It's the only sport where you get in a car and drive around other than racing.
Which you don't have to, right? You can walk across most golf courses, and I'm in favor of that as opposed and designing golf courses to the extent that they are more walkable and
walkable, yeah.
And not as like made for golf carts and stuff like that, because like that is another criticism. But let's set that aside for a second and just talk about it is a form of exercise versus, and getting people outside and literally touching grass. But a video, so that's something that definitely has over video games, right?
I mean, that's, kind of a bit of where I think the appeal of something like Wii Sports Golf starts to come in, and especially I thought one of the coolest applications of the Wii U was it's only used once, if anybody even fucking played Wii Sports Club. I think I was one of the 15 people in the United States that played Wii Sports Club. But you put the Wii U gamepad down on the ground, and then that had, a picture of the ball down on the tee, right? And then you would swing it. And it's not like a ton of exercise, but you're actually like moving around, and it added a little bit of a twist into the golf mechanics that we talked about have been doing forever, right? Now that said, it's not the same as going out and actually getting some sun rays and getting some exercise, right? But that is certainly a good part of it.
And while all of that stuff about the environmental impacts of golf might have convinced you that video game golf is better, to be fair, video games, maybe we'll hit on comparing some of these things in a little bit, but video games also have a environmental impact, right? Just the power consumption alone, that's an issue in terms of CO2 and that sort of thing. I would say that your average person playing video games, the CO2, that's not like a huge thing. But when you think of all the billions of people on the world playing, that's not insignificant. And when you have bigger and bigger games that require more and more servers and all of those sorts of things, we start to get into significant numbers, especially with, we're seeing the crash of it now. So maybe we're seeing the retraction of these sort of giant games that are like pushing hardware that require, more and more graphics and that sort of drive and that people have in video games, or some people, I should say, right, to bigger and all that. Then you've also got the if we're talking about consoles and physical video games and all of that has a pretty big environmental impact in terms of mining for zinc and copper and e-waste, which is a big thing. All of these things are problems. They're not without solutions, but we live in a time and an era where people aren't concerned about those sorts of things. More and more people are waking up to it. And I think the video game industry is too, you know.
As an environmentalist and a conservationist, does the idea of an all digital future excite you?
It's like it's like this debate, right? Like because that sounds great. There won't be physical things and like plastic cases and all that being manufactured, but there will be more servers, and you know, so it's like, what's worse? I don't know, and it's really hard. The classic example that's really fascinating is like a paper plate versus a reusable, I don't know, ceramic plate or something, right? And like you can start to really drill down to this point where you're like, I don't know. It's so situational as to what's worse and what are we talking about? Water use, tree, you know what I mean? It's all this huge system we're a part of that is really hard to figure out.
So there's a funny story too. Like right by me, there's a golf course that they've been debating this for like 2 years, and they finally just like voted against it. But they were going to like wipe out the golf course. Basically, someone was going to buy it out and just build like a shopping mall on it. Right. So like in that sense too, it's like, you know, all the energy that a shopping mall uses, all the gas cars that show up, like, is that worse than the lawnmower that goes out there once a day? You know, you know what I mean? Like there is that balance of like, okay, well, could it be worse? Yeah, totally. Like what would make it better? Just letting it be. That's really the only thing, you know?
Yeah. And I think going back too, as well, to the paper plate debate, like you were talking about, it's, you know, that's something that I've always had a really hard time wrapping my head around, is that every, like, say like pizza boxes, right? Every pizza box has a little triangle that has the recycle logo on it, and it's made out of cardboard. And so you're like, great, I can recycle this. But as soon as
You can't.
piece of paper or cardboard has any food product or grease on it, it's no longer recyclable. And so it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? You know what I mean?
I'm going to tack on to that really quickly though, and also say, like, actually check with your local waste solutions, because there are more solutions for like food waste on cardboard, especially with like pizza boxes specifically. Literally check with your waste solutions. My neighborhood does process it. They are able to use it for composting still. So like, but yes, it is difficult. Like, right. Because
but I'm saying
not everybody
like,
wants to sort through that, right? So
yes, of course. I just feel like our systems, they put the least amount of effort in to the symbol is on there and everybody feels good about like doing things, but nobody really knows how to actually properly dispose of anything in a recyclable format. Our recycling system is fucked in America for many reasons. Yes, and it's by design. And it's
plastic,
like, if we put
lobbyists.
Exactly. If we put even the smallest amount of time and money and effort into ground up rebuilding some of this shit and having our systems able to properly process these materials, the world will be in such a better place. But that upfront cost is so scary to people in a capitalist environment that it'll never ever get done, right?
I was hearing a tinge of anarchy. Tearing systems down. No, I'm just teasing you because we're on the podcast right now, right? So, I'm sorry. You want to tear a system down and rebuild it?
I've been living in Austin for about 17 years now. My transformation into a radical leftist is nearing completion.
I mean, it's really depressing when you look into how much of your recyclables are actually recycled.
Yes.
So if you don't want to be sad, don't look that up. But
or do, because your local place might be good, and you might be thinking I'm wasting my time, but you're not, and it's really
and
locally specific. And then if you find out it's not, then maybe there are other solutions.
No, because I want to add to that. Money matters. When I moved to my current neighborhood, they had just switched the waste solution company because they wanted to work with someone that was more efficient about their or ambitious with their recycling. So money matters, voting, like your local voting matters, and those kinds of things locally. So it is good to look into those things because then you're able to like show up to your local town hall and voice those kinds of things. And we need to be able to talk about it because that's how we, start to have these kinds of conversations. You said, "Oh, I'm getting too far away from golf." No, it's all connected. And that's how, and if we don't talk about it now, then how are people going to know?
Yeah, I mean, look, this episode is a veiled attempt for a very thinly veiled attempt for us to finally talk about conservationism on the podcast. But no, you're totally right, Summer, that I think the most important way to enact change in any society is at the local level, starting there, right? Starting with your community, starting with the people around you, enacting mutual aid, being the change you want to see in the world, right? And then kind of that can move itself out. It's hard when the systems of power that are in place, like, are so overwhelmingly negative at all times, and it seems so immutable and unchangeable. But it's not really, it just is oppressive by design.
To bring it back a little bit, maybe we could talk. I want to maybe go back to this bigger picture stuff to wrap it up.
Let's rank the best golf video games. Let's give the people what they want.
Well, maybe we could
Golf Story number 1.
I think.
Why do you guys love Golf Story so much? I don't know that I've paid enough attention when you've actually talked about it. What's so good about it?
It's really funny. It's well written.
It's very Australian.
It's very enjoyable game. The golf mechanics are good, and it has a really good variety of like. It's not just you're playing hole to hole. There's mini golf. There's like
disc
weird
golf too.
challenges where you'll go somewhere and have to hit them into washing machines. It's just a really charming adventure golf game.
It's got the RPG mechanics of the Camelot Game Boy Mario Golf and Mario Tennis RPGs, which is very much a spiritual successor to those kinds of games.
Now, so that leads me into another question then. Which Mario games have RPG elements? Not the NES one.
No, it is the Mario Golf and Tennis games for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance are essentially, because this was in the era that now I know Patrick was trying to make a way bigger point, but it's like
I think this is a weird topic that's going to go out on a lot of tangents.
Yeah. Before we started recording, we're like, should we go over how we're going to tackle this? And we were like, nah, let's wing it.
I love this. Keep going. Tell me about golf game.
But
Mario.
This is around the time that Camelot was doing Golden Sun, right?
Okay.
So they were super horned up on RPG mechanics in the Game Boy Advance era. And so they were kind of dipping their toe into that during this period. So that kind of seeped into their sports games at the time.
Okay.
Right. And so they've kind of dropped that since then. And there's been a huge hole in the market. And that's where Golf Story comes in. And I think that's why so many people like it so much. And that's why they made Sports Story, is because they were like, okay, now do one for tennis, or do one for this sport, and do one for blah, blah, blah. So they tried to kind of fit it all into one. But
Gotcha.
Did it work? I never played Sports Story.
no, I think it was not nearly as well received as Golf Story was.
Yeah.
It also like had a bunch of bugs at launch, and because it was rushed, or presumably was rushed and there was some crunch issues or something.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot of the dev team was like all pissed off about the crunch. They even made like a separate room, I remember, like a secret room. You go in there and talk to the devs, and they talk about like what dickheads they are for making them crunch.
Yeah, so like
Another very Australian thing to do.
it was kind of tainted as kind of like I didn't ever pick it up because I was like, oh, it sounds there were multiple issues. So
Yeah.
But do you think we could just real quickly go around and say, do you prefer, given all the impacts of the sport and video games and on health and on the environment and in terms of enjoyability, would you rather go play a real life round of golf, or would you rather play your favorite golf video game? David, let's start with you.
I mean, look, man, I've got skin cancer. I'm not spending a ton of time outside these days. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't really like the feel of SPF on my skin. So I've become sort of a vampire lately. So I'm playing a lot of golf games at home when I get the itch to golf, personally. No, but I mean, like, even before that, I find my golf is just not my sport, right? And I've got another point I want to make, But I mean, there's also a lot of things that I like to do in video games that I don't like to do in real life. You know what I mean? And we can get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I'm a video game golfer every day, man. That's what I'm all about.
Summer?
DCD, you mentioned frisbee golf. I could play frisbee golf. Love that. I do like frisbee golf, mini putt. I know that's not what we're talking about right now.
I do like putt-putt.
Because if those two,
more of the people.
If those things are in the mix, right? I'm going to do that with my friend. Because I'm also not going to do that by myself. I'm going to do that with my friends. Because I'm not interested in doing any of these things alone. Barrier to entry to quote unquote actual golf, probably higher for me. For the sake of your argument, Patrick, I want to say video game golf because I can play a lot of those titles on NSO, which I have.
There you go.
That is so true, Patrick. Putt-putt is golf for the proletariat.
Yeah. Well, I also pick video game golf, but the real person who I'm curious about here, because I've had a feeling the three of us would say that. Dan, what if you had to choose between the two? What's your
I'm sorry, Patrick. I'm part of the problem, and I hope you still talk to me after this, especially with the way you led into that question.
I know that was so fucking loaded.
Fucking daggers going right into me the whole time.
I truly feel like we're on a stage right now, right? With that kind of lead into the question.
But for real, do you if you had a choice, what would you prefer?
I would play a real game of golf, like I said. I'm part of the problem.
Yeah. No, because I think about if golf were like what we wanted it to be, and we understood that like the environmental impact were like looked different. Theoretically, I would want to play it. Does that make sense?
Totally.
You know?
And if you could strip away the insurmountable judgmentalism that comes from Patrick's mouth throughout this entire episode.
Well, that's why I'm tying that in that way, right?
No, I'm joking about that. But I think it's important to know, like, no one should be like shamed for doing things that already exist in the world. It's not like going to a golf course is like in particular is actively killing the environment because you're there at that golf course on that particular day. You know what I mean? Just in the same way that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Yes,
you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is the systems are in place. You know what I mean? I don't think that it's worth being shamed over something that you enjoy. I think it's good to be aware of these things, and it's good to start to move into directions that can create a more sustainable world for people.
Sure.
I also don't think it's not productive to shame other people for enjoying something that they enjoy. What is productive is moving towards something that can cause actual, real, appreciable change over time.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. That's why I mentioned that thing earlier about Catherine Hayhoe and the like she's like, meet people where they're at, and like if you enjoy something and care about it. And I may not like, I don't know, whatever random, niche things are out there. They're not all for me, and some of them have higher environmental impacts than others. I don't inherently want anybody to be judged or shamed for any of their activities. It's more about like being aware, because we don't talk about this kind of stuff, and like I think it's about recognizing that whether you do this or that, a lot of things have impacts we don't. That's kind of the whole point of this episode, right? Like video games have a big impact too. And we should be thoughtful about all these things and how we, we can't, like you said, capitalism is the enemy, right? And like our systems are the enemy, and not each other, and not what we enjoy. And if we want to keep enjoying these things, we need to be thoughtful and kind. Yeah.
Here. That's a good one. I wonder what audience this episode's going to have.
Well, there are a couple of things maybe to close out on, because we should wrap this up. David, you mentioned, I think this is a really good analogy or thing to be thinking about. We picked golf, but you could pick football, right? Like you think, oh, well, football's only on 100-yard thing, but they build stadiums the size of freaking small towns, with parking lots the size of whatever. And that's true of a lot of sports, right? So like, I think that's the point, right? Like we picked one thing, but it's everything, right? But there are also other things in real life that you might, like not want to do in a video, but you do in a video game.
Exactly. Just before we started, I wrote down a little list of some things that I feel like we could have easily made this episode on. And I think that it actually might be worth doing an entire episode about this idea in general later, beyond just golf. But I think some of the ones I was thinking about is, shooting games. I like to play a lot of games where you shoot and kill people. It's not like necessarily like my favorite kind of game, but I love games where you shoot people. Like there are a lot of games where I kill people that I really enjoy. Am I going out to a war and fighting a battle against somebody, or going and shooting people in real life? No, of course not. Games can be a great avenue for escapism and for getting energy out in activities that you can do safely in an environment that is entertaining and fun that you would never want to do in real life. I think that there's a lot of other examples. A lot of games have morality systems for this purpose, right? That kind of track whether you're kind of like going towards the good side or towards the bad side. And in games like KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, the Star Wars game, it's fun to be evil, right? And to become a Sith and to like be on the bad side of things. In reality, I feel like most of us would not kill innocent people, or like in BioShock, say, it's more advantageous to harvest the children than to save them a lot of the time, But I think in real life, if you're faced with that situation, you would never do something like that, right? I think there's some other things, especially in terms of environmentalism. One that I thought was kind of funny, since I was thinking about Rock Band a lot recently. There's a lot of bands that don't tour, or when they do tour, and go overseas, they take ships or boats because of the environmental impact of taking planes and stuff like that. So games like Rock Band can be escapist fantasies for people that want to be able to go on a tour without actually harming the environment because of emissions from airplanes. And then, other stuff like this as well would be, games like SimCity, right? That kind of reward you for making as much money and kind of exploiting your citizens of your city as possible. A lot of times that's the best way that you can create a successful city. But your citizens in your city are being exploited. They're not happy, there are different aspects in which you can beat those kinds of games and different city builders and stuff like that. But these are just a couple ways that I was thinking that were other analogies to this topic that aren't just around golf. Did you guys have any that you could think of?
I was just thinking about other sports and stuff too. Fishing games and things like that, like
Japanese dolphin fishing simulator.
Whale Hunter.
Whale Hunter DX.
But no, just a few other points I or things I might want to like close and talk about. Like we already talked about it, but I think I don't want to name and shame golf too much. It was kind of just a fun way to do this. But I think like there's also this sort of duality of the physical and digital world where we think like digital things are not part of the real world, but they are. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we talk about it in this like real golf versus video game golf, but it's all part of our giant system of being alive. And we're very like, I don't know. I it's maybe too big brained for getting too much deeper into. But I do think the video games have a place, just like golf has a place, and it's kind of navigating these waters and talking through it. And it's thank you for doing this, y'all. I don't know. Any other final thoughts, or as we close this out?
I do think Rockstar Games have built their entire brand on this very idea of this like escapist fantasy of like, it's probably not good to go out and have sex with a bunch of prostitutes. But it is in Grand Theft Auto. And it's not good to be a school bully, but hey, you got a game for that. You've got Bully. You know what I mean? And I think that is honestly a really good avenue for people to play games like that. I think that's another giant debate on whether or not games cause violence or if they stymie violence. I will always be on the second position, that I think it's important, especially for young men who have a lot of pent up aggression and stuff like that, and boys and stuff that have a lot of aggression, to have avenues to let some of that out. I think that games can be a really good avenue for that. I know that this now has nothing to do with golf, but I think that, the same kind of principles apply. Right. And so I think that it's important to view games in that way as a possibility to do things that you wouldn't necessarily do in real life. And I don't know what it means about me, but after this, I kind of want to go out to the local course and play a couple rounds of golf.
I did have one more thing I just wanted to jump in on, because I know around me, a lot of golf courses are trying to be a lot more environmentally friendly. Public courses, at least. And if golf is something you're interested in and you want to be somewhere in between Patrick and I, you could look up which one of these courses is trying to benefit off of this and get out there and do that one. You know what I mean? You don't have to go to Scottsdale to play. Like you can play at one of these places that actually are trying, even knowing what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same with video games, right? Like being more aware and thoughtful about how we do everything is good, right? But no shame that we all are doing our best.
I just want to thank you all for being willing to have this conversation. I really enjoyed this. I know we joked about, how do we want to go into this? And I kind of felt like if we, just went for it, that it would be good because we're all, good people here willing to just talk. And I really enjoyed where this went. And this has just been a lot of fun to talk about and productive.
Yeah.
I feel like we really had a good conversation.
I'd like to thank us for single-handedly saving the planet.
Yeah, right.
We did it, Joe.
Okay, y'all. Thanks,
Joker.
Thanks, everybody. But we're gonna take another short break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about the games we've been playing recently. I've been playing a little bit of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. But I'll be honest that we have been playing a lot more of Minecraft. Every day, again, it is summer, the season. And so there's been a lot of video game playing in my house. And, it's like, let's play some Paper Mario and Minecraft today. That's the plan. But then it has turned into more Minecraft. It's been really nice to play on PC because we each have our own, place. And what happened most recently that has never happened in our Switch playthrough on Minecraft that was a lot of fun was we had a pillager raid. So in Minecraft, if you kill a pillager leader, they raid a village, and I just had never experienced that before, and it was a ton of fun, just kind of randomly happening. And then we did it twice today because we happened to find a pillager outpost, which then you can have this happen. I don't know. I just feel like also it's one of those games that the more you play, the better you get at it, which is true of every video game, right? But on this sort of new world that we started on PC, we're just moving faster, and we're about to go to the Nether, which we've never done before too. And I'm just having a lot of fun over here playing Minecraft, y'all. I don't know. If you had told me this 2 years ago, I'd have been like, shut up. But here I am.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Shut up. That's what I would have said.
I'll go next. I really haven't been playing much. I'm not going to lie. I had to scratch the bottom of the barrel to put anything on this list because I've just been moving. It's like every single moment that I've had, it's either just been doom scrolling because I'm too exhausted to do anything or trying to figure out what to do next in my apartment. But I did play a little bit of new stuff. Obviously, Picross S Namco Legendary Edition. I did buy that because I'm a cuck for Picross. So I started that. I've been enjoying that a little bit. I did, during the move, find something. I've been playing some Tetris 99 because I found my 8-bit DOE SN30 Pro Plus, which nice. I thought I left at a friend's house or something. It was just in the controller box with all the rest of my controllers. It was just in there.
It's the best Super Mario Maker controller that you could possibly have.
It is the only controller I want to play Tetris 99 on a TV with because the D-pad sucks on the classic controller. And I don't know how my mind just didn't see it. I looked for it so many times in that controller box and it was just in there. And so, fuck.
Dude. I had the same experience with my Steam Deck dock. You remember when I was like, I guess I have to buy a new Steam Deck dock? But then one day I looked in a place where I thought I had looked many times before and it was there. And I'm like, what?
I think I have this mental disorder where I just don't see things sometimes. It's kind of like how muggles can't see Diagon Alley. My eyes just pass over certain things in my house, especially little piles of weird trash that I'm not living in squalor, but you know what I mean? Just something that I put down, then it's there for a year and a half. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. I need someone else to point it out to me. Anyway, that's an aside. The last thing I played was a little mobile game called Tomb of the Mask. I downloaded this. I saw it on an Instagram ad, and I thought it looked really fun. And the game is very fun. Unfortunately, it is riddled with advertisements in a way that makes it to where I stopped playing almost immediately. I want to pick this game back up and maybe drop like the $10 to like unlock everything ad free. But I'm so burned by the amount of ads that they put into it that I'm like, I don't even trust that it'll be completely ad free if I pay the money for it. You know what I mean? So that's a shame because the game has a really cool aesthetic for a mobile game. You know, I feel like most mobile games have this like Clash of Clans, like, you know, like PNG fucking like Web 2.0 aesthetic that I find really disgusting, and I just don't vibe with that aesthetic at all. This has a great like little pixel art aesthetic, feels and looks like an indie game. The gameplay is really fun, but I don't know if anybody's played that full game and can let me know if it is actually ad free when you buy it. I'm always kind of looking for a good just pick up and play mobile game that I can just play in my downtime. You know, the Tricky Towers-esque game that's on phones has been my go-to for so long. It's called 99 Bricks, but I'm getting pretty burnt out on that game. I've played it too much. So, but that's been mostly me. I promise next week I'll actually play some real games. What about you, Summer?
Yeah. So I decided after remembering, this is an episode back when Matthew was a host, RIP. He had talked about a game called Man Eater, where you play as a shark and your goal is to just kill and eat people and take down these boats. And I feel like this kind of goes along with some of the messages from today too, from this episode. Because when I first got the quest to take down a boat that was specifically coming after me, the shark, I was like, oh yeah. But then like the difficulty curve was immediately there, and I was like, oh gosh. It's very fun. Definitely something I can like play a little bit of when I'm not ready to jump into something else at the moment, right? You can play it like a little bit at a time with that. Like I don't feel a need to play it for hours because it's just funny. Back to playing Fortnite, Patrick, like what you're saying with Minecraft. I didn't think I was going to be into this current season. That's why I kind of laugh about it, because everyone was like, oh, the Fallout season is here. And I'm like, do I really need, I mean, like I get how that could be fun in Fortnite. It's really more of a wasteland season. Like there are Fallout aspects to it. But I would say it's more a wasteland with the way that cars are utilized in this. And now there is a vehicle that you can get control of called the War Bus. And if you can get that, it's so fun. And this also goes back again, yes, our discussion today about doing things in a video game that I would never do in real life. Like I have absolutely no desire. And this also like satisfies my urge to ever want to go to Wasteland, because it was something that I kind of thought I was interested in doing at some point. And now I'm playing this season of Fortnite. I'm like, I think it's satisfying that desire I ever had to go to Wasteland.
War bus, war rig, car combat. This is sounding a lot more like Mad Max than it is like Fallout to me.
Well, that's, yeah, which is why I'm saying it's more of a Wasteland. Yeah, because Wasteland is Mad Max, right? Or Mad Max is Wasteland, whatever.
Yeah.
And then
I don't think Fallout would exist without Mad Max. So.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then, I'm still playing Fire Emblem currently on Birthright in my quest to get through Fates. We'll see. I don't really have anything else to report. Oh, well, I got to Azura's cunty scene in Birthright, but she's even cuntier in Fates. So we're getting through it. And also got Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Right, if we're talking about cuntresses, I'm in chapter 4. That is
the cuntiest Mario game for sure.
Oh, but I'm saying like where I'm at in the game though too, right? We're in mega cuntress territory. Yeah. DCD, what have you been playing?
I found myself playing like a bunch of games at once, and I just finished a couple of them. I finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was I don't know how I feel about it. I love Final Fantasy VII. I loved the remake, and this one was good too. Like I was really into it at first, but it just like a lot of the same old thing towards the end. A lot of like really hard mini games that kind of take away from the experience, and then just an ending where you're like, what the fuck was that? Like, you know, like you just don't know what happened. Like you even look at online at people just saying theories, and even people who come up with the craziest theories are like, what the fuck was that? So it just, I don't know, when you put like 90 hours into a game, you want a better ending, at least in my opinion. So I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it. It kind of burnt me out. So I'm like kind of 50-50 on that. I don't like a lot of the changes in it. Or no, I liked a lot of the changes. Some of them I didn't like, but anyway, Donkey Kong 94, I played that. I feel
like you're always playing that game.
Dude, I finally like beat it beginning to end. Like I play it on my computer. Like I just find some emulation website to play it on, and like I lose my progress and stuff. But I finally was able to just play it on my phone, and I got used to the touch controls and ended up beating it. But that's like one of my all-time favorite games. I could play it all the time. And then I went back to Yakuza Like a Dragon. Such a good game. It's probably top 5 for me. And started Paper Mario recently as well.
Very nice. Well, thank you once again for joining us and talking about golf and video game golf and all of the things. Thank you as well to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. Thanks to all our patrons on Patreon. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online as PDYX.
You can find me at Weebwitched.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Dan? Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DCDM99.
Very good. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We got a website, switchheadz.com, and we've got a Patreon, like Patrick said, along with a Facebook group and a Discord. We'll have links to all 3 of those in the description of this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or Spotify or Pocket Casts or any of these other platforms. We'd love if you would check those out, and please leave us a review or a like or a subscribe on any of those as well, and tell your friends that this show is more than just a video game show, baby. We also sneak in leftist politics and conservationism into the topics, so hey, spread the word. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode on video game golf versus IRL golf. We're gonna be back next week, hopefully talking about a Nintendo Direct. I mean, when's that fucking thing going to drop, right? We'll have to see. But we'll be back talking about that next week, so don't touch that dial. In the meantime, gang, you know the drill. Be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Why don't you do the world a service and go and torch your local golf course. Just commit a little bit of arson. That's all we're asking you to do.
That's great for the earth, too.
Yeah, that's great for the earth. Burning grass. All right, we love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.